The courtroom lights dimmed slightly. The afternoon sun slipped through the high windows. A quiet tension filled the air. Reporters, students, and officials waited in hushed anticipation. At the center sat Judge Margaret Stone, one of the nation's most respected federal judges, known for her unshakable discipline and devotion to the Constitution. Across from her stood Elena Cruz, a bold investigative journalist who had recently accused the federal judiciary of being out of touch with moral reality. What was meant to be a respectful discussion had turned into something far deeper, a clash between law and conscience. Judge Stone's voice cut through the silence. "Miss Cruz," she said firmly, "your recent article suggested that judges who follow the letter of the law are morally blind. That's a dangerous statement, one that undermines public trust in the courts." Elena didn't flinch. She met the judge's gaze. "Your Honor, I respect the courts, but people outside these walls are suffering because the law refuses to evolve. If justice doesn't feel humanity's pain, is it really justice?" The audience stirred. Judge Stone leaned slightly forward. "The law," she said calmly, "is not meant to feel. It is meant to protect. If every decision bends to emotion, we lose the very balance that keeps society from chaos." Elena's eyes flashed with conviction. "And yet, Your Honor, isn't silence also chaos? When the law looks away from injustice, doesn't that, too, destroy balance?" A murmur of approval rippled through the crowd. For a moment, Judge Stone said nothing. Then she replied softly, "You speak from compassion, Miss Cruz, and compassion is noble. But judges are not lawmakers. Our duty is to interpret, not to create." Elena took a step closer, her voice steady but full of emotion. "Then who carries the burden of conscience, Judge? If lawmakers fail to act and courts refuse to feel, who stands for the people?" That question hung in the air, like thunder. Even the court stenographer stopped typing. Judge Stone exhaled slowly. Her tone softened. "When I first took this seat, I believed law could solve everything. But I've seen too much. Sometimes the law cannot heal what society refuses to face." Elena listened, surprised. For the first time, the judge's voice carried pain, not authority. Judge Stone continued, "I once ruled on a case where a young boy was sentenced harshly under a mandatory law. My heart broke, but I had no power to change it. I still see his face in my dreams. That's the burden of the bench." Elena's expression changed. Her confidence melted into understanding. "Your Honor, I never realized the weight you carry behind those robes." Judge Stone nodded slightly. "And I never realized how deeply people like you feel the pain we cannot speak about." The tension in the courtroom began to ease. For the first time, it wasn't a battle. It was a bridge. Elena spoke again, quietly now. "Maybe the truth is, we both want the same thing. You protect justice from chaos. I try to remind the world that justice must have a heart." Judge Stone gave a faint smile. "And perhaps both are necessary. A heart without structure becomes chaos, and structure without heart becomes tyranny." The audience fell completely silent. Every word echoed like a lesson. After a long pause, Elena said, "Then tell me, Judge, what should I write next? If you could tell the nation one truth, what would it be?" Judge Stone looked out over the courtroom, at the faces watching her, at the sunlight glinting on the polished wood. Her voice was almost a whisper, yet carried across the room. "Write this."
that justice is not a weapon, nor a shield. It is a mirror. It reflects who we are, not who we pretend to be. Alina's eyes glistened. She slowly nodded. I'll write that, word for word. The judge rose from her seat. Then perhaps, she said, our work, both yours and mine, serves the same truth after all. The crowd stood in applause. Some clapped for the judge's wisdom, others for the courageous journalist. But most clapped for what they had witnessed. Two worlds, once divided, now united by understanding. That evening, Alina's article was published under the headline, Justice and Conscience, a dialogue between law and humanity. It went viral within hours, not because it attacked, but because it healed. For once, people didn't argue over who was right. They talked about what was right. And in that quiet shift, something in the nation's heart changed, because that day, inside a solemn courtroom, a judge found her conscience, and a journalist found her respect. Together, they reminded the world, real justice lives not in laws or headlines, but in understanding.